So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. So guys, from now on, you're either going to see this background or the one that I have in my room. I'm going to change it up time to time, either this one or upstairs. But these are the two backgrounds that you're going to see from now on. I prefer both backgrounds, to be honest. Both natural, both look good. But yeah, from now on, you're only going to see these two particular backgrounds. But anyway, enough about the backgrounds, enough about all of that. Let's get straight into it. Oh yes, the live stream tomorrow at 7:30 UK time. Make sure to join the live stream. I'm going to be having a debate about Canelo, Billy Joe Saunders. Hopefully in the live streams, I'll start to bring some of you fans in, doing interviews with fans, getting your guys' opinions. Just changing it up a little bit, to be honest, and changing it up rather than it's me talking. I want to get your guys' opinions. What do you think? I think it'll make it more exciting viewing, just to give, get to see other people's opinions about fights and breaking things down. It just makes it more exciting. But anyway, let's talk about some boxing news. So Terence Crawford yesterday, with an interview with DAZN, said something that really was like a dagger to the heart, really. Really disappointing news. And it's frustrating. I think I've had many rants about this previously. He basically said that the Errol Spence fight ain't going to happen. It's behind him. And it's really frustrating for me. It's really frustrating for me as a hardcore fan. That's the best fight in boxing right now. And a lot of people, I've had discussions with people on Facebook, in my Facebook group. A lot of people arguing with me, saying that Joshua Fury is the biggest fight. No, Joshua Fury is the biggest fight financially. It's not the biggest fight in boxing in terms of the best matchup to be made. It's not the two best fighters fighting one another in a weight class. I don't believe that Joshua Fury are top 5 pound for pound fighters. Errol Spence and Crawford are. They're undefeated. Their skill level is on another level. They're two of the best fighters in the world. And for some reason, we can't get them in the ring. We cannot get these two in the ring. And it's really frustrating for me as a boxing fan, because that's the best fight that can be made right now in boxing. Terence Crawford v. Errol Spence is the best fight that can be made in boxing, not Joshua Fury. Right? Terence Crawford v. Errol Spence is a genuine 50-50 fight. Right? I believe Tyson Fury is a favorite against Anthony Joshua. Right? Errol Spence, Terence Crawford is a genuine 50-50 fight. A fight that not many of us can call with any kind of certainty. Right? It's two undefeated guys. Two guys that haven't put a foot wrong in their career thus far. Two guys that are unbelievable right now. Two of the best fighters, not just in their division, but in the world. Across any division. Two of the best fighters in world boxing, period. And we can't get them in the ring. We can't get them in the ring. It's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating, and it makes you frustrated as a boxing fan. That why can't we get these two in the ring? Both guys haven't got the profile that I think they deserve. I think both of them deserve to be bigger. I know a lot of people saying Errol Spence is getting there. He is, but I don't think he's as big a star as he should be, even at this point. Nowhere near as big a star as he should be. He should be a humongous superstar, Spence. So should Crawford. Crawford should be a huge superstar. He's not though. And it's frustrating that's probably the reason why this fight's not going to happen, because I don't think the fight's big enough financially. And Errol Spence being the bigger name in his opinion. And listen, he is slightly the bigger name. And the fact that he holds 2 belts out of the 4 in the welterweight division, he feels he deserves a bigger slice of the cake. But Terence Crawford feels with what he's achieved in boxing that it should be 50-50. And he's achieved more than Errol Spence, which he's got a point, because he's a 3-division world champion. Forget about the resume, forget about who he's fought. It's irrelevant. He has achieved more. He's a 3-division world champion. Spence isn't. Right? Spence isn't a champion at 154 or 160. He's a unified champion at 147. Terence Crawford was an undisputed champion at 140. He was also a champion at 135, and now he's a champion at 147. So his achievements are far greater than Errol Spence's achievements in the sport of boxing. Yes, Errol Spence might have faced the more accomplished fighters, the more well-known fighters. And Terence Crawford's well-known fighters that he thought may have been past their prime. However, nevertheless, you can't deny the fact that he was 140 pound undisputed light welterweight champion. You know, you can't just take that away from him. So for me, I just think that they need to bump their heads and get this fight on. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. Because I don't think this fight's ever going to be financially that big. And unless Spence... If Spence fights Ugas, gets hold of 3 belts, how is it going to happen then? Because then he's going to say 80-20. He's not going to say 70-30. He's going to say 80-20 then. I just don't see how this fight gets made because Crawford isn't going to take anything less than 50-50. Some people are saying that, oh, Crawford should take 60-40 and Spence should get this... It's not going to happen. So let's just forget about it. It's not going to happen. If you keep saying that Spence deserves 60-40, then as far as I'm concerned, you don't want this fight to happen because Terence Crawford ain't going to take 60-40. It's just not going to happen. So we might as well forget about it. Because Terence Crawford, as I've said to you before, he's too proud a man to go into a fight like that feeling undervalued. He's not going to take anything less than 50-50. It's not about the money for Terence Crawford. You see, he strikes me as the type of guy that's about pride and self-respect. And he's not going to lower his self-respect because he feels he's being degraded by taking less than 50-50 with what he's done in the sport of boxing. So for him, it's become kind of like an ego thing. So I think Errol Spence isn't going to budge from 60-40 either. So this ain't going to happen. This fight ain't going to happen. And as fans, we're going to get robbed again of not seeing a great fight in its prime. You know, it doesn't look like it's anywhere near being made. Terence Crawford clearly said the fight's behind him, so he doesn't even care anymore. And when you hear stuff like that, as a boxing fan, it angers you because you think to yourself that this is probably the best fight in boxing and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Mayweather-Pacquiao was a terrible, terrible, terrible situation. That fight dragged on and on and on and on and on. And literally it was like 5-6 years of dragging on and on and on. And when the fight happened, it was absolutely terrible. Because Floyd Mayweather didn't fight Manny Pacquiao 5 years prior, when actually I think the fight would have been more dangerous, a lot more competitive, a much better watch. It just would have been a better fight. But financially, it wouldn't have made as much money. And are they doing exactly the same thing with Spence and Crawford? That the fight right now is probably the best time to have the fight. But financially, the fight's not as big as it could be. But the problem is with this fight is that Mayweather and Pacquiao were small welterweights. So they were always going to stay at welterweight. The problem here is Errol Spence is a very big welterweight. And there's only going to be a limit to how long he's going to be able to stay at welterweight. So eventually he's going to have to move up because he can no longer make welterweight. So there's a great chance that this fight is not going to happen at all because of what I've just mentioned. Mayweather and Pacquiao could always happen because both guys were very small at welterweight. They didn't kill themselves to make weight. Errol Spence is a very, very big welterweight. Yes, Crawford makes the welterweight limit quite comfortably because he's not a big welterweight. But Errol Spence is a big, big welterweight. So he'll struggle next couple of years to squeeze down to welterweight. He's going to have to move up. So this is why I don't think this fight's going to happen. Because I just don't think they're going to be able to come to financial terms. And I don't see Terence Crawford taking a pay cut. Or feeling like he's taking a pay cut. Because Errol Spence feels that he's not worth more than 60-40 or 70-30. Whereas Terence Crawford believes that it's 50-50 or nothing. Mayweather Pacquiao was a lot of nonsense as well, or needles, and then it was about 50-50 split and 60-40 split. Eventually Manny Pacquiao took the 60-40 split, but the difference was Manny Pacquiao Mayweather was such a big fight. Mayweather Pacquiao was such a big fight where the money was so huge that neither guy really minded. Pacquiao didn't mind taking 60-40 because the money was so big. You don't mind taking the smaller slice because you're talking about 160 to 300, like Mayweather getting what, 250 million to 300 million, Pacquiao getting 100 to 150 million. That's crazy money. So it's more of like you're more worried about what you're getting than what somebody else is getting in that instance, because that was career changing money for both of them. Even though Mayweather had made so much money prior to that and Pacquiao had made so much money prior to that, that money was still so huge that it was life-changing to both of them. And it was no way that either of them could turn that kind of money down. So that's why that fight was always going to happen. Spence and Crawford isn't like that because financially the money is not that great. Spence has actually got other fights that he could have that potentially would be bigger financially, like the Canelo fight, which he could target for at 160. Because financially, they would be bigger. That would be a bigger fight for Spence. But I still think Crawford, apart from Canelo, who's right now at 168, and the Spence fight is not a possibility right now. Spence and Canelo fight is not a possibility. So the biggest money fight for Spence is probably Pacquiao or Crawford. Realistically, who else is there? Who else is at 154 that Spence could fight that would be financially bigger than Crawford? Nobody. So really, Spence, when we look at it, the biggest fight for Spence financially is probably Crawford and Pacquiao, which Pacquiao might not never happen. But I don't know, man. I don't know whether this fight's ever going to happen. I'll be surprised if it does. I think I'm more in the boat now of it's not never going to happen than it will happen. I don't know what boat you're in, but I don't see that fight happening. I wanted to talk about another topic within the video. Ortiz and Crawford. Ortiz and Crawford's a good fight. I think it's definitely a fight that I would like in the future. I think Ortiz is a very good fighter. He's definitely a very, very heavy-handed guy. He puts his punches together very well as well. I do question his feet, and I think he needs, obviously, with the kind of punches he throws, his feet need to be set, and somebody could easily outbox him. I think Maurice Hooker was outboxing him in spots. He just wasn't able to sustain that. And I just felt like he got dragged into a war. Whereas I think a more disciplined boxer that could stick to a game plan would be able to outbox Ortiz. Because like I said, Ortiz needs to be set to throw those big shots. I think a boxer that moves around with good lateral movement could definitely outbox him. So those are areas he's got to work at. Also, he was quite open. He was getting tagged a lot. His face was bashed up. And against a world-class welterweight, you don't want to be that open because, you know, Maurice Hooker wasn't really a big puncher and he's not really a welterweight or a big welterweight. You don't want to be taking those punches off big welterweights that can punch because you'd be in trouble. So I do think that Ortiz is still quite green. I don't think Ortiz is ready for guys like Crawford and Spence. And I think if he was to jump into fights like that, I think he would lose. So I would prefer Ortiz to fight someone like a Garcia, Thurman, Porter before he goes in the ring with Spence or Crawford. Because I just don't think he's ready for someone like Crawford. I think Crawford's he's too versatile and too good for someone like Vergil Ortiz. Vergil Ortiz needs to improve on his game, needs to improve some of the weaknesses, and in my opinion, fight the names that I mentioned rather than go to Spence and Crawford, because right now Spence and Crawford are in a league of their own. Vergil Ortiz needs to keep building his building his name, keep getting that experience, and then eventually fight Crawford or Spence. But I just think right now it would be very premature. And I don't think Oscar De La Hoya, being the good promoter that he is and being as smart as he is, I don't think he's going to be looking to put one of his cash cows or future cash cows in a fight like that and getting beat. I just think he's too intelligent for that. I think he's too intelligent to put him in a fight where he's not really ready. He needs probably a couple more fights before he gets into a ring with someone like Crawford. And listen, Virgil Ortiz wants it, and you can't knock him for wanting it. He's a fighter. He believes, fighters believe they can beat anyone, but it's for the manager and the team around them to kind of, bring him back down to earth, because you don't want to put somebody in there and ruin his confidence when you know he's not really ready, just because you think it's a great opportunity and you need to take that opportunity. But I don't think, from what I saw last night, there's levels between Hooker and Crawford. And he struggled with, let's be real, he struggled with Hooker. Like, yes, in the end, he emphatically finished him off. But I don't think that was a performance of a man that was very, very dominant. You have to say Hooker had a lot of moments in that fight. And listen, Hooker's a world-class fighter, but Ortiz looked like there was weaknesses, like getting hit a lot. He was marked up. Like I said, his feet look slow, and he needs to be set. And he felt like in spots he was being outboxed. Crawford's looking at that and thinking, I see those weaknesses. If I saw that, then Crawford's seen that. And I just don't think Virgil Ortiz right now is ready for someone like Crawford. He needs to take his time. Take his time. Fight a Thurman. I think he would beat Thurman, if I'm honest with you. And by the way, that's not an easy fight, but I think he would beat Thurman. I think he would beat Danny Garcia. I think he would beat Sean Porter. But they're no gimme fights. See, they're a step up from Hooker, right? And that's the next step he needs to take. And then, if he beats one of them, especially in emphatic fashion, then you can start talking about a Terence Crawford, Errol Spence fight. Because that would be the next step up. But I just think he's fought Maurice Hooker, that was probably his first fight at welterweight. And Maurice Hooker's not a top welterweight. So I reckon he needs to fight one of those guys that I named. And if he beats them, then maybe a fight with Spence and Crawford makes sense. But right now, on that performance last night, I still think there's a lot of weaknesses. A lot of improvements for him to make. And I just don't think you want to be rushing him into a fight with Terence Crawford, because, like I said, Terence Crawford could humiliate a young man like that. 22, you don't want him to ruin his confidence that early. So I think he should take his time. Take his time. He's got all the time in the world. It's Crawford that hasn't got the time. Virgil Ortiz is going to be at welterweight for a very long time. Terence Crawford is going to probably finish his career at welterweight. But Terence Crawford is, 34? They could easily wait another 2 years till Terence Crawford gets to 36 and Ortiz gets a lot more experience. And then make that fight. There's other fights out there for him that he could have, prior to the Crawford fight. So take your time with Virgil Ortiz. No point in rushing him. There's other fights that he can have. Keep learning, and then eventually, once he's ready, then he can go into a fight with Terence Crawford. But again, like I said, did people think that Teofimo was ready before he went in with Lomachenko? At the end of the day, when are you ready? You're ready when you go in there and you win. So if he goes in there and wins, then people will say Oscar De La Hoya, Virgil Ortiz, it was a masterstroke fighting Crawford. If he loses, people will say, well, he wasn't ready, he was rushed, poor management, poor decision making. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to there's no guarantee in 2 years' time, if they were to wait 2 years, he beats Terence Crawford. But you'd probably give him a much better chance with him hopefully improving, getting more experience, Crawford becoming older. You'd definitely give him a chance. Look, even Canelo was on another level to Ortiz when he was around the time when he was looking to fight Golovkin, and they waited then. They didn't want to put Canelo in with Golovkin then. And Canelo was an accomplished champion at that point. You know, Ortiz has never been a champion. So if Canelo, as accomplished as he was at that point, waited for Golovkin to get a little older, right? Ortiz should definitely, at this stage in his career, who's not an accomplished champion, who's never been a champion, should be looking for more experience, more fights at world level, and then fight Terence Crawford. Because as of right now, you'd have to say Vergil Ortiz hasn't got that experience, and he needs more experience at world level for him to challenge and beat someone like Terence Crawford, because Crawford right now will know too much for him. Crawford's an exceptional talent, and you know, the mistakes that Vergil Ortiz was making last night, Crawford will capitalize, and he will punish him for those mistakes. So leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. Make sure to join my live stream tomorrow at 7:30. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.